Alright, hello guys. This is I think my first photo editing tutorial, at least like long photo editing tutorial, because I have done 90-second ones, but uh, this is more of a step-by-step tutorial. Uh, so yeah, so the picture that's there right now, hold on, I'm going to start the screen recording really quick. Alright, and then we'll go step by step with the screen recording. So as you can see, first what I do is I'm using the object select tool to select the person in frame, and there's three ways that you can use the object select tool. There's the object select tool, the magic wand, and the like. There's there's another object select tool that's also called the object select tool, but instead of it works more automatically. When you right click the icon that's in bold uh, on the upper left part of the screen, it looks like a brush that has like a digital circle type thing. That's more manual, and the other one, it looks like a cross with like a little square on the bottom right corner of it, and that automatically selects objects. For this specific edit, I chose to use the manual object selection tool because the edges are kind of blurry, and the object select tool that works automatically doesn't really pick up on that too well. So either way, I was going to have to use the manual one. But yeah, plus also like I will want specific portions of a picture that the object select tool might not look at. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why. I did also try to use the automatic object select tool for this one, but again, like I said earlier, like it was kind of blurry and sharp, like too blurry, like on the outside, like by the wrist part of his arms, like where his arms are like coming out like this, versus like his shoulders, like there's like his shoulders are like really sharp because of the water. His hands are kind of blurry because they're like still in the water, and they're moving a lot more than the shoulders are. So that's why it looks like that. But what I do here is after I do the object selection tool, like selecting person in the picture, I make several layer copies, and I think if I remember correctly, I make 3 or 4. Um, but yeah, no, I make 3. I make 3. So there's one that I make, and I change the color of 2 of them. I make one of them cream, the other one is crimson. That's for the IU colors, and like I'm about to do it right there, so I'm gonna move myself out of the way. Oh, no, I do not need to select that. Whoopsies. So as you can see here, like I'm messing with the saturation and the hue and the lightness to change the type of red that's there. And then what I end up doing is I hide the layer. So as you can see, there's a eyeball right here, like on the left part of the layer. I use that to hide one layer, so that way I can look at another one and have it be more focused. So for this layer, for the white, I just take away the saturation, increase the lightness a little bit to make it more of a cream color, just like IU. I put that on 20. After I do that, I move the colored ones under the normal one, under the one that I didn't mess with, and then I just use my arrow or trackpad, depending on what you call it, to move around the colored layers underneath, because they're not under the main layer, they're just underneath the selected layer that I selected earlier with the person. And I just move them just slightly off to the left, slightly off to the right, so that way I am out of the way. Wait, I'm out of the frame. Hold on. fantasy look. So I like make slight adjustments here and there. Um, I was thinking about making it a dissolve layer, but for this specific one, the dissolve wouldn't really do much of anything. So I end up doing is I double click on the layer and I change the specific details of that layer. So as you can see, there's different templates. Like you can look at like the red square over there. That's like a preview function. So like as you manipulate certain effects of that, it shows you in this preview. You can also see that it's already manipulating the image, even though I haven't like hit OK or anything. That's kind of why I'm messing with it a little bit, like just going in and out, in and out. There's also an invert, so you can, invert it like that. Yeah, so that's what I end up doing for the red one. See how like you can actually see it more. It looks more glitchy, not like too glitchy, but like glitchy enough to where it's like it's blurry and it kind of blends in a little bit with the sharpness of the water underneath. What I end up doing is I do the same thing with the cream one, the one that's cream colored. I had to go through and change the color because when you mess with the layer style, it likes to stay with one color. So just make sure when you're messing with the layer style, you've got to go through and change the color. As you can see, I'm like messing with it again, and I'm starting to get a little confused when I'm doing it as to why it's turning red. And I go through, and then I look at the color and see how the colors are still red right there. So you have to go through, move it to white or cream on both. I would just change it on both. Because one of them is the shadow and one of them is like the main part of the image. So yeah, I would recommend not having one on red and one on cream if you're trying to do this. As you can see, I also keep the same water template, except I kind of mess with the scale and depth a little bit more. I tried, for this one, I try not to make it the exact same. I try to make it slightly different because, I mean, it's supposed to look a little bit more random, but I don't want it to be too random to the point where like it's out of control. So yeah, I also mess with the opacity here. Some people say opacity, some people say opacity. I say opacity. Yeah, so you mess with the opacity a little bit. So that way, like with the person on top, in this case Lucas, so like there's one layer that I made that goes on top. We don't really mess with the color or anything. It's just a copy of the main person. So any coloring, but in order to make the other ones kind of look more glitchy, I guess, you make the opacity a little bit less, so that way like that top layer is a little bit more see-through. As you can see, the like red is a little bit more see-through like on the bottom part of his arms, and the white or cream is more see-through on the top part. Also, since I messed with the layer types, you probably noticed this already, but there's little things that pop up underneath each layer whenever you mess with the layer type. Anyway, as you can see, so the next thing I do is, oh my goodness. So next thing I do is I'm selecting the claw marks, like the scratch. And I do this because it's already dissolved, kind of, and I'm trying to find something in the original image that I can use to create a glitching effect. And I thought that the claws, because the claws have very sharp edges, so I thought that would look good for when I glitched them. And I started off using the automatic select tool, And then once I saw that there was teeny little parts that I wanted in there, or that were added in that weren't supposed to be in there because the colors are kind of similar. That's one of the flaws of it being automatic, is it likes to select certain colors. But anyways, I go through and just, tidy it up a little bit. I go to distort it. So you can see there's, it's called the wave. You go to filter, distort, and then wave. As you can see, I'm kind of messing with it a little bit because I'm trying to get a specific look to make it look glitchy. There's 3 types of waves. There's the sine wave, the triangle, and the square. For this one, I chose the square wave just because it made it into little blocks, and they were like separated depending on the wavelength and the amplitude and the number of generators. The scale just means it is in comparison to the wavelength and amplitude, so it's like a ratio. So like it'll say 70 horizontal and 10% vertical. So that just means that like for however high the wave you want it to go, it's not going to be 100% that high. It'll be only 10% high. So I select the square, and then what I end up doing is I duplicate the layer right there, and then I take it, I hit Command T or Control T after I rename the layer, and I take it, and when you do Command T, that allows you to flip it. It allows you to flip it. Before I do that though, I change the color. I'm sticking to the cream and crimson theme. I do the one I'm doing right now. This one is cream. I remember the lightness settings that I used previously and the saturation and hue. I had the hue and saturation on 0, light at 20, so that way it looks more white. And then I move it up a little bit, and then here, again, I hide it. And I go back and do the same thing, go to adjustments with the other one, hue and saturation. Move the saturation up a little bit. It's about 55, 50 to 55 is good, or dark red, or 60. And then you can decrease the lightness to make it slightly darker. But now I'm going to unhide the cream layer. And this is where I go and switch to Command T. Now, the thing with Command T is that you have to remember that Command T has different functions depending on which tool that you're clicking. So the tool that I'm clicked on is the very top one. It's just arrows going up, down, left, and right. When you hit Command T for that, or Control T, that allows you to grow or shrink the image, or it allows you to flip it around, rotate it. There's other ways to flip and rotate images. You can go to adjustments again, or you go to image, adjustments, and then you can flip it horizontally, so that for this specific image, if I flipped it horizontally, what would happen is instead of the swimmer looking forward this way, they would look forward this way. And then the lane line would, instead of being over here, it would be over here. The claws would also be facing the opposite way, etc. You get it. The next thing I end up doing is I go through, I'll see, Command T, shrink it a little bit. I do that with both the cream and crimson layer because I don't want it to be too overboard. Again, like I said earlier, you want it to be random, but you want it to be a controlled random. You don't want it to be you want it to be in control. You want to be in control of the details and what's highlighted, what's not, etc. because yeah. So what I ended up also doing is I go through and I'm erasing stuff. I forgot in a previous project that I had the opacity at 50% instead of 100%. So that's what I went to do there. I switched it out. I just got rid of a little dot that was kind of down at the bottom. It was just too separate from everything else, so I got rid of it. It just didn't really, it didn't fit in, it did not fit in. So after that, what I end up doing is I go to Safari, and I look up the IU logo. There's one that's, it's like a nice quick little template. I'm just gonna quick look at my browser there. You can click like the first thing that you find, save image to download, save image as. And what I recommend, like for future projects, if you guys are working on future projects, save stuff. It could be anything, whether it's like IU images or shattered glass images or water images. Just make sure you keep it organized so you guys can use it for later. So I do here for the IU logo, I go through, I switch out the object selection tool for the magic wand tool, and like I said earlier, like magic wand tool is really, really good at picking up specific colors. Since it was red, like it was Trident is all red, magic wand is easily going to pick it up. So yeah, and what I end up doing is I hide it a little bit. I hide it under the IU Trident. I hide the IU Trident under the cream layered glitch. Leave it on top of the crimson layered glitch while I'm moving it around, just so I can kind of see where it is. Once I get the sizing right, I move it around a little bit more. Right now, this is just me experimenting a little bit with the sizing. How big do I want it? Because I want most of it to be inside of the glitch. If it's too big, then the bottom part is not going to be in the glitch, and it's just going to look goofy. It'll also be too far below where the scratch marks are, which will also look really dumb, especially since that's going to be the one part that's not glitched if I did that. But since it's also at the edge, you don't want it to be too glitched, because like the further away that you go, the less glitched something is going to be most of the time, or like whether it's like top or bottom, left or right, maybe the right side's a little more glitched than the left, etc. So I go through for the glitch layers. So right now you can kind of see for the crimson one, I go and I'm adjusting the layer type. So and you can preview what different layer types are going to look like just by hovering over each option. So right now I'm hovering over like the linear light option and the hard mix option just to kind of see what happens. And what's interesting about layer types is the more you mess with them, like it is interesting the way that it affects the image below. So you can kind of see with the IU Trident how like it looks almost orange in some spots, but in other spots it looks the way it normally looks, so that it accentuates the redness more of the Trident, which is one of the reasons why I went for that layer type. For the cream layer type, I ended up choosing one, where'd it go? I chose the difference one, just because it looked a lot more random, and since it is on top of the crimson glitch, it's gonna look a little bit different. So it looks almost green, kind of, when you look at it. Right now I'm just saving this, moving it for later. But you can kind of see, like, it looks green in some spots, and white. Like, it's, again, like, it adds, like, a random effect to it when you mess with layer. Like, the more you mess with layer types, the more, like, random something's gonna look. But yeah, that's how I created the image. No, I would have executed this a little bit differently. Um, the only problem though is a few months ago, some of my Photoshop files got deleted. Um, so like this is one of the casualties actually. I just got lucky that it was still on my camera roll. Um, but what ended up happening was it deleted the Photoshop file. This the one that I edited just now was a JPEG file, so it's not going to have the difference between a Photoshop file versus a JPEG file is a Photoshop file is going to have each layer there. It's like a history almost like it's like the history of that picture. So like it would have changed what I did. I probably would have messed a little bit more with the background maybe. Um, like there's I probably would have like for the background, like I maybe would have changed the color of the background instead of changing the color of the swimmer, or maybe I would have glitched the swimmer um, instead of the symbol. Um, there's a bunch of different ways I could have gone if I had access to the Photoshop file, but I didn't have access to the Photoshop file, so I had to be very particular with this project. Um, but yeah, that's all I've got for this tutorial. I don't know if you guys are going to want any more of these. I'll probably work on my chattiness. Um, but this is kind of fun. I kind of like doing the long form tutorial. I'm still probably going to do short form for some of them. I mean, you guys could see like why I didn't do long form for this. There was just too many. There was way too many moving parts for 90 seconds. So that's why I only did long form for this one and not short form. How to. Alright, so with that, that's all I've got for this edit. I will see you guys next week. If you guys want another how to, you can leave a like or send a message or whatever. See ya.